You are standing at the door of a truth that few will ever knock on. Fewer still will open it, and almost none will walk through it. This is not a message for the masses. It is a challenge to the chosen, a signal to the few who are prepared to rise beyond the limitations of emotion, confusion, and mediocrity, and to take rightful possession of the greatest power known to man, dominion over one's own inner world. You want to change your life. You want success, peace, wealth, power, and clarity. But you've been lied to. They told you it would take luck, talent, connections, or inheritance. And yet I tell you now with unshakable conviction, it takes one thing, and one thing only: control of self. Not partial control, not weekend motivation, not temporary discipline. I speak of total inner mastery of the mind, the emotion, the habit, and the will. This is the path that can change your life in 90 days, not because time has power, but because concentrated power over time changes everything. The first day of that 90 begins the moment you stop asking life to get easier and start demanding more of yourself. You are not waiting for a breakthrough. You are waiting for the courage to stop being ruled by your feelings. Because as long as you obey emotion, you will remain a servant to your lower nature. Emotion is a servant. It was never meant to be king. And when you forget that truth, your decisions become cloudy, your focus becomes scattered, and your destiny gets postponed indefinitely. Let us define the problem without hesitation. Most people live in reaction. They react to pain, they react to fear, they react to what others think. They react to failures, insults, inconveniences, and delays. Their entire life becomes a series of emotional explosions and withdrawals. They are not governed by principle. They are pulled by impulse. And where there is no principle, there is no purpose. Where there is no purpose, there is no power. If you do not master your emotion will master your time, your focus, your income, and your identity. Now, what is the solution? Emotional detachment. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is power. It is the ability to hold your position when the world tries to move you. It is the inner silence that allows you to hear your higher voice. It is the calmness to choose your direction instead of being thrown by the noise of others. Detachment is the engine of vision. It allows you to observe, not absorb, to move, not flinch, to decide, not drift. And if you cannot detach from your own emotional reactivity, you will forever remain trapped in cycles of progress and collapse. When I speak of emotional detachment, I speak of the power to say, this feeling is here, but it does not decide. To say, this fear is loud, but I choose clarity. To say, this insult is real, but my focus is more valuable. Now, let us move to the foundation that makes detachment possible. Mental discipline. Discipline is the cornerstone of the superior life. It is the internal structure that holds every great achievement upright. Without discipline, your motivation will betray you. Your clarity will fade. Your intentions will collapse under the weight of distraction. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is order. It is the architecture of destiny. If you cannot wake yourself at the hour you choose, if you cannot focus your mind on the task at hand, if you cannot silence the voice of procrastination with decisive movement, then success will forever remain an idea, a dream without direction. Discipline is not about intensity, it is about consistency. You do not need to be extreme, you must be unbreakable. A man who disciplines his mind for 90 days with absolute seriousness, without apology or retreat, will accomplish more than 10 years of scattered effort. And how does this discipline begin? It begins with your definiteness of purpose. You must decide, not vaguely, not someday, not I want to be successful. Decide exactly what you are building. You cannot discipline what you do not define. A foggy goal creates a foggy mind, and a foggy mind will sabotage every effort, every dollar, and every opportunity that crosses your path. The man who succeeds is not necessarily the most intelligent nor the most gifted. He is simply the one who has burned the bridges to indecision. He has declared this is the mission, and then he disciplines every thought, habit, and association to align with that mission. Definiteness of purpose is not a slogan. It is a decision made in silence that echoes through every action. It is what makes emotional detachment meaningful. For when you know where you are going, you will not flinch at the obstacles. You will not dance to the emotions of the crowd. You will march calmly, clearly, and constantly toward the aim. Now let us reach even deeper into the invisible power source behind all transformation. Autosuggestion. You are a walking echo of your repeated thoughts. You are not your environment. You are not your past. You are not your emotion. You are the product of the statements you repeat silently or out loud to your subconscious mind. If you whisper weakness, you will walk in weakness. If you repeat confusion, you will move in chaos. If you replay trauma, you will reenact trauma. But if you install order, you will move in authority. If you repeat strength, you will act in strength. If you affirm clarity, you will speak and think and decide from clarity. The subconscious cannot argue. It obeys. It does not judge. It accepts. And this is the great secret. Most people are already hypnotized. Hypnotized by fear, by scarcity, by the mental programming of untrained voices. And so, they unconsciously fulfill that programming. But you will reprogram. You will take command of your mind and say, I am unmoved by emotion. I am ruled by principle. I rise in silence. I act in purpose. I decide from strength. I live in clarity. I master my day. I master my destiny. These are not affirmations. These are installations. Each repetition builds structure within you, mental steel, that the world cannot bend. Now, let us speak of the most essential law of all. Thought comes first. You cannot change your results until you change your thoughts. Not someday, not theoretically, immediately. Every emotion you feel is born of thought. Every action you take is born of thought. Every outcome you receive is born of thought. You cannot solve a life problem without solving the mind that created it. If you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. You must become ruthless with thought. Select it the way a sculptor selects stone. Examine it the way a jeweler examines a diamond. Do not let a thought enter your mind without asking, does this serve the vision? If the thought is weak, destroy it. If the thought is confused, replace it. If the thought is borrowed from a coward or a critic, reject it. Because thought is the tool of God. It is the sacred gift given to man to create his own heaven or to tolerate his own hell. And now, if you understand this, we return to the promise. 90 days. Not because 90 is magic, but because it is long enough to break patterns, yet short enough to feel urgency. It is the furnace of transformation. 90 days of controlling your morning. 90 days of emotional detachment. 90 days of mental discipline. 90 days of thought-first living. 90 days of executing without excuse. 90 days of commanding your internal world like a general commands an army. Do this, and your life will begin to obey. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Not because obstacles disappeared, but because they no longer shook you. Not because people stopped doubting you, but because their doubt no longer had power. Your world becomes unstoppable the moment you become unshakable. And that, my friend, is the secret the world will never teach you. The next 90 days are not about doing more. They are about becoming more. You are not being called to speed. You are being called to control. You are not being called to emotion. You are being called to mastery. You are not being called to drift. You are being called to direct. Direct your thoughts, master your emotions, control your time, discipline your mind, and you will walk into rooms with a presence that no one can name, but everyone will feel. Because they will sense what you've become. And when they ask, what changed? You will look at them with the calm of someone who has met himself in battle and emerged victorious, and you will say, I took control of the one thing that changes everything, my mind, and I never gave it back. Do not misunderstand this moment. This is not just another piece of motivation. This is not another shallow burst of energy that burns out by tomorrow. No, this is the sound of the old self collapsing. This is the iron door closing on mediocrity. This is the beginning of your private war. If you can master 90 days, you can master the rest of your life, because 90 days is long enough to break your emotional addiction to being weak, long enough to sever your ties to excuses, long enough to destroy the version of yourself that talks about goals but never walks toward them. But it is not the time that matters, it is the intensity of the decision, the fire in the vow, the refusal to go back. Because once a man sees what he is truly capable of, when his mind is no longer ruled by impulse, he will never settle again. The first day will feel like fire, because you're not just changing your schedule, you are changing your self-concept, and every identity resists its own death. But hold steady. Every master once fought through this fog, and so shall you. Now let us go deeper into the mechanisms of mastery. Let us dissect the inner machinery that turns drifting men into directed giants. Let us begin with what I call the law of mental neutrality. This law states that the truly powerful man does not allow himself to be emotionally charged by the event, only by the outcome he is committed to. In other words, he does not allow the wind to determine the course. He uses the sail. To be mentally neutral means you are not seduced by highs nor destroyed by lows. You respond with precision. You act without noise. You proceed regardless. You do not curse the storm, you measure it. You do not scream in pain, you redirect it. You do not beg for certainty, you become it. Because neutrality is not weakness, it is strength so deep, it does not need to be loud. Most men fail not because they are not capable, but because they are too easily moved. A word can insult them. A delay can break them. A rejection can silence them. And so they never gain power. Because the mind that is always moving can never become solid. But neutrality is solidity. It is the stillness that gives birth to clarity. It is the silence that gives rise to force. If you can hold your inner position while the world pulls at you, you will do in 90 days what others cannot do in 9 years. You see, the untrained mind leaks energy. It reacts to every comment, every feeling, every distraction. But the disciplined mind, the neutral mind, that mind is a fortress. It conserves power. It protects direction. And it multiplies momentum. Now let us speak of the next principle, the principle that turns thoughts into architecture and emotions into fuel. The power of calmness. Calmness is not a personality trait, it is a weapon. A calm mind is a deadly mind. Why? Because it can think when others are panicking. It can act when others are frozen. It can calculate when others are blinded by emotion. Calmness is control. You have never seen a commander lose his temper in the middle of the battlefield. He does not have the luxury of emotional leakage. His mind must be precise, his orders must be sharp, his presence must command stillness in others, and so must yours. Calmness is what allows you to hold the line when the vision is under attack, to keep building when the rewards are not immediate, to keep going when your body wants to stop, your friends don't understand, and your past screams for you to return to comfort. You must decide now that calm is your new nature, not because life is easy, but because you are in command. And to live in calm is to live in force, because calmness is not lack of intensity, it is focused intensity. It is fire without panic. It is strategy without noise. It is clarity without chaos. Now hear this clearly. When you are calm, you are no longer predictable. And when you are no longer predictable, you are no longer controllable. That is why calmness is feared. It makes others uneasy, because they cannot manipulate what does not react. Calmness, neutrality, detachment, these are not philosophical luxuries. These are the very tools of dominion. And those 90 days you are about to walk through, they are the furnace in which calmness is forged. You will wake some mornings and feel like quitting, but calmness will whisper, proceed. You will be misunderstood, but neutrality will remind you, let them talk, you are building. You will be tempted to explain yourself to the small-minded, but discipline will command. Your results will be your answer, and you will obey, not because you are motivated, but because you are decided. This is no longer about emotion. This is about engineering. You are engineering a mind that does not fall apart when stress appears. You are engineering a schedule that honors your future, not your feeling. You are engineering an identity so aligned with power that mediocrity has no place to land. And that brings us now to one of the most profound truths of this entire philosophy. What you allow becomes your standard, not just in business or relationships, but especially in your thinking. If you allow laziness in thought, you will tolerate weakness in life. If you allow scattered focus, you will invite chaos. If you allow unchallenged emotional reactions, you will become a puppet for your own impulses. But if you set a standard of clarity and enforce it, you will repel confusion. If you set a standard of inner command and live it, you will attract order. If you set a standard of unshakable decision and practice it, your outer life will organize itself around your mind. And so the next 90 days are not just about results, they are about raising the standard of who you are. They are about becoming a person so mentally disciplined, so emotionally detached, so spiritually precise that your very presence changes the temperature of every room you enter. Because you no longer speak to impress, you act to express purpose. Because you no longer react to noise, you move in direction. Because you no longer ask what the world can give you, you decide what you will extract from it by force of will and clarity of thought. This is the inner law of success, and you cannot bypass it. You must endure the silence. You must outlast the impulse. You must destroy the version of you that needed comfort to feel alive and replace him with a version who finds power in structure. Let me ask you this. Are you willing to be misunderstood for 90 days, to be unstoppable for the next 90 years? Are you willing to say no 900 times to say yes to the life most only dream of? Are you willing to wake up before the world, to create a world that no one else could build? Because if you are, then you are already among the few. And if you remain, you will become the master of your fate. You will become the man others try to copy but cannot duplicate. Because what you're building is not cosmetic, it is foundational. And no storm can shake a foundation that was born in clarity, silence, discipline, and fire. The mind is a muscle, but most men leave it untrained, undisciplined, untested. They protect it from resistance. They shield it from friction. They feed it pleasure, but never force it to push beyond the walls of emotion. And then they wonder why their lives remain fragile. But your mind, your true mind, is forged in resistance. Discipline is not only a habit, it is the callus on the soul. It is the quiet strength that begins to form when you repeatedly do what most people will not, when you act without applause, when you finish what you start, when you follow structure over mood. You must now become that kind of person, not as an act, not as a performance, but as a principle, because the world does not need another emotional thinker. It needs disciplined builders. And 90 days of unbreakable structure of early mornings, tight routines, intentional thought, and inner clarity will put you further ahead than 900 days of half-hearted action. Let us now explore the next law, the law of repetition. Nothing great is built once. No mental muscle is grown by a single effort. No character is forged in a single day. Repetition is the chisel of destiny. It sharpens identity. It solidifies belief. It rewires every nervous impulse into obedience. If you want calmness, you must repeat calm responses. If you want power, you must repeat powerful decisions. If you want freedom, you must repeat focused actions. This is why autosuggestion works, not because it's magic, but because what is repeated becomes installed. Do not seek variety, seek victory. Repeat the plan until you become it. Repetition is the way the subconscious mind is programmed. It is not what you believe once, it is what you allow yourself to believe over and over that becomes law. And now we come to a truth that separates the great from the average. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your system begins and ends with self-governance. If you do not rule your time will be stolen. If you do not structure your day will disappear. If you do not protect your energy will be devoured by people who do not care about your future. This is the war no one sees, the war over your inner space, the war over your hours, the war over your thoughts. And if you do not fight it daily, you will lose your life in pieces, one distracted hour at a time. Let us now take hold of a principle most fear to confront. Reaction is weakness. You may believe you are strong because you feel deeply, respond quickly, speak instantly, but this is not strength. This is vulnerability. The man who reacts is the man who bleeds control. He leaks it in every word, every glare, every movement dictated by feeling rather than thought. But the man who responds slowly, strategically, calmly, he becomes untouchable. He watches the insult fall. He lets the chaos scream. He does not match emotion, he elevates beyond it. And because of this, he owns the moment. While others waste power on reaction, he converts power into direction. This is what I mean when I say that 90 days of mastery begins the moment you stop living emotionally and start living intentionally. Let us now enter the chamber of clarity, a principle most know intellectually but few practice spiritually. Environment is power. You cannot think like a king in the dungeon of chaos. You cannot rise when you are surrounded by decay. If your surroundings contradict your vision, your subconscious will obey your surroundings, not your words. Your environment must become a temple of the mind you want to build. Order must be visible. Structure must be felt. Peace must be seen. You cannot do this surrounded by distraction. You cannot keep friends who drain you and expect to feel charged. You cannot scroll for hours and expect to develop mental discipline. You cannot swim in noise and expect to hear your inner voice. Environment is not just physical, it is mental. It is what you allow in your ears, what you allow in your eyes, what you rehearse when no one is watching. Protect your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. If your room is messy, your thoughts are disorganized. If your schedule is chaotic, your results will be random. If your inputs are low quality, your identity will be low power. So clean the temple, build the fortress, honor your space. Now we arrive at a brutal truth, a truth few can accept but all must face. The emotional self must die, the self that needed to be liked, the self that waited for the right feeling, the self that needed everything to be easy, the self that feared judgment, that justified failure, that sought comfort over clarity. That self cannot come with you. You must become a new entity, forged in routine, steeled in rejection, focused in solitude, and governed by vision. This is not self-help, this is self-death. You must kill the self that served your former life so you can give birth to the one that creates the new. That is what these 90 days truly represent. Not a change in habits, a transformation in identity. You do not do this to become someone else. You do this to become the person you were meant to be before the world taught you to shrink. Now let us speak of the divine principle that completes this transformation. Personal initiative. If you wait to be told, you are not ready. If you wait for motivation, you are not serious. If you wait for support, you have not yet decided. Initiative is the act of commanding reality before it has given you permission. It is what separates the watcher from the warrior, the complainer from the commander. Do not ask for instructions, move with clarity. Do not wait for inspiration, move with fire. Do not check for permission, move with presence. This is the final lesson. The mind, once disciplined, begins to take initiative naturally. It begins to wake earlier, think clearer, speak less, move faster. It begins to protect the body, guard the spirit, and enforce the vision, all without negotiation. You will not need to ask, "What should I do today?" You will know, because the master no longer seeks guidance from the world. He obeys the law within. And that law, once forged, speaks with authority. You have now walked through the silent halls of your own potential. You have stared into the mirror and seen both the lie and the truth, the weakness you once obeyed, and the power you now reclaim. This is no longer about knowledge, it is about ownership. You no longer need to be told what to do, you already know. You no longer need to wait for perfect conditions, you now understand that you are the condition. The old self-emotional, scattered, addicted to stimulation, ruled by feeling he is gone. And in his place stands a sovereign being, a silent force, a disciplined mind, a builder of invisible empires. Let this be etched into your soul. Discipline is freedom. Detachment is power. Clarity is wealth, and control is destiny. Every man must pass through the valley of resistance, but not every man builds a temple inside of it. Not every man finds his voice beneath the noise. Not every man holds the line long enough to cross into legend. But you have chosen the path few dare to walk. You have chosen to suffer in silence for 90 days, so you may speak with authority for the rest of your life. You have chosen to detach from the noise, the neediness, the comfort, so you may attach yourself only to purpose, only to power, only to precision. And make no mistake, the world will test you. They will mock your silence. They will question your calm. They will tempt your discipline. They will misread your clarity for arrogance, your focus for coldness, your sovereignty for strangeness. But hold your position. Let the mediocre misunderstand you. Let the distracted ignore you. Let the weak criticize you. Because one day, not long from now, they will look again, and they will not see the man they once knew. They will see a presence. They will feel an edge. They will sense something unnameable. They will not be able to explain it, but they will be drawn to it. Because the one who no longer needs anything attracts everything. The one who moves from decision, not reaction, from silence, not noise, from mission, not emotion, that one becomes inevitable. And so I give you this last command. Do not turn back, not after 30 days, not after 60, not after 89. You walk the full 90. Because what you are building is not a result, it is a reputation with yourself. And once you gain that trust, once you prove to your own soul that you can be counted on, the universe opens. Doors you never saw appear, people you never met arrive, strengths you never used awaken. You realize the truth that the rich, the powerful, the disciplined have always known. The outer world is your mirror, but the inner world is your master. And when the inner world is governed with precision, the outer world submits in time. So go now. Wake at the hour no one sees. Think the thoughts no one dares. Reject the noise no one questions. Move in silence while others talk. Act in purpose while others panic. Hold your mind steady while others break. And in 90 days, not because of time, but because of power, you will no longer recognize the man who began this journey. You will have changed your habits. You will have changed your identity. You will have changed your frequency. You will have changed your future. You will have changed your life forever. And when they ask you what happened, how you became so clear, so calm, so precise, so unshakable, you will not need to explain. You will only smile and say, I stopped being ruled. I started being sovereign. I took control of my mind, and I never gave it back. There comes a time in every man's life when he must look into the mirror and declare war not on the world, but on the version of himself that has kept him small. The version that delays. The version that doubts. The version that obeys feelings more than vision, and comfort more than character. This version must die not tomorrow, not someday, but now. For as long as it lives, it will sabotage every step you take toward greatness, and until it is buried, the strong version of you cannot rise. Do not confuse existence with life. Millions exist in comfort, but they are not alive. They move, but they do not command. They breathe, but they do not build. They work, but they do not create. They age, but they do not ascend. And the reason is simple. They are ruled by the weaker man within. He is agreeable. He is always tired. He avoids conflict. He seeks validation. He fears solitude, and he calls that a life. But you, if you are to succeed, must do what most men never do. You must identify this weak version of yourself, and you must kill it, ruthlessly, repeatedly, without apology. For the man who tolerates weakness within will always bow to the world without, and poverty, mediocrity, and regret are but symptoms of a mind that has refused to conquer itself. Let us begin with the great truth. All lasting success begins in the inner world, not in talent, not in resources, not in luck, but in mastery of the self. The mind is the soil from which every result grows. The weak man tries to change his results without changing his roots, and so his efforts collapse. But the master, the one who has studied his mind as a scientist, studies the laws of nature he builds from the inside out. The foundation of power is emotional detachment, the ability to feel without obeying, to observe without reacting, to remain still in a world addicted to movement. The moment you learn to separate your actions from your emotions, you begin to control your future. The weak man moves because he feels. The strong man feels, but moves only when he decides. Emotional reactivity is the leash by which average men are led. He is excited, so he speaks. He is hurt, so he quits. He is afraid, so he waits. His feelings determine his fate, but greatness demands that you reverse the order. Decide first, feel later, commit first, negotiate never. Do not misunderstand. Emotion is not the enemy. Undisciplined emotion is. Emotion, when mastered, becomes intuition. But emotion, when it rules, becomes chaos. The man who has not mastered his emotional state is like a king who cannot control his own army. Eventually, he will be overthrown. Now consider this. If you knew your emotions were being used against you, would you not take back control? The advertisers, the politicians, the critics, they all feed on your reactivity. They win by keeping you distracted, outraged, or ashamed. But the moment you become emotionally neutral, calm, clear, and unmoved, you become untouchable. This is not theory. This is law. Master your emotion and you master your momentum. Master your momentum and you master your life. From this foundation, we move to the second pillar, mental discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is precision. It is the deliberate cutting away of everything that does not serve your mission. It is the mind sword, sharp, silent, decisive. The weak man wakes up and follows his feelings. He checks his phone before he checks his priorities. He reacts before he plans. He moves, not with intention, but with habit. And those habits are usually inherited, not chosen. But the disciplined man rises like a general preparing for war. He commands his day before the world has a chance to. He does not leave his future to chance. He engineers it. He writes his code. He sets his rituals. He respects time, not as a clock, but as currency. Every second spent is an investment or a tax. And here's the principle. If your mind is undisciplined, your life will be disorganized. Chaos outside is always a reflection of confusion inside. Discipline is a declaration. I no longer accept what is easy. I only accept what is aligned. It means saying no when everyone else says yes. It means training when no one is watching. It means doing what is necessary, especially when it is inconvenient. The man who builds discipline within becomes immune to the storms of the world. He is no longer motivated, he is mandated. He no longer needs permission, he gives himself orders. The third principle follows naturally, the definiteness of purpose. Without a central aim, a man becomes a servant to every distraction. He tries everything and masters nothing. He chases opportunities like leaves in the wind and wonders why nothing sticks. But purpose makes a man magnetic. It sharpens his yes and his no. It repels what is irrelevant and attracts what is essential. Purpose is not something you wait to feel. It is something you decide to live. It is not a luxury. It is a law. Ask yourself, do I know why I rise each day? Do I know what war I'm fighting? Do I know what version of myself I'm building? If the answer is vague, then your results will be as well. The mind craves clarity. Without it, it will invent 1,000 urgent things to do, none of which matter. But when you declare your purpose clearly, loudly, unapologetically, the fog lifts. Time bends. The world begins to respond differently to a man who knows exactly what he's here to do. Purpose is the fire. Discipline is the fuel. Detachment is the wind that carries the flame without letting it burn you. And now the fourth cornerstone, autosuggestion and inner speech. You do not rise above your inner dialogue. The man who tells himself, I'm not ready, never is. The one who repeats, I'm tired, remains so. The one who rehearses fear creates it. But the master speaks to himself with authority. His words are law. He does not beg for belief, he commands it. He does not wait for confidence, he installs it. Autosuggestion is the process of planting the seeds of power in your subconscious. It is not magic, it is mechanics. Whatever you repeat to yourself with emotion becomes the blueprint of your being. Your mind is always listening. If you speak like a victim, it will build you into one. If you speak like a king, it will make you one. Begin each day with fire in your mouth. Declare who you are becoming. Command your mind to obey your vision. Speak only what strengthens. Words are not decorations, they are instructions. And if you hear the voice of the weak self rise, that doubting, delaying, denying whisper, respond not with dialogue, but with execution. Let your actions become the final word. Fifth, accurate thinking. Most men suffer not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of clarity. They confuse opinion with fact, reaction with reason, noise with truth. They consume more than they contemplate and wonder why their mind is crowded, but their life is stagnant. The principle is simple: think clearly or be ruled by those who do. Accurate thinking demands you filter every idea through two questions. Is it true? And is it useful? If it is neither, discard it. If it is both, apply it. The mind, like a body, is shaped by what it consumes and what it rejects. Do not allow your thinking to be outsourced to the masses. Do not accept the news as reality. Do not absorb emotions from others as if they were facts. You must become the sovereign of your own thought process. Let your conclusions be born of investigation, not imitation. Accurate thinking is the armor of the elite. The man who thinks with precision cannot be fooled, cannot be panicked, cannot be defeated by illusion. Now combine these principles. Detachment is the control panel. Discipline is the engine. Purpose is the compass. Autosuggestion is the fuel. Accurate thinking is the navigation. With these, you become unstoppable. You become sovereign. You kill the weak version of yourself, not with noise, but with law. Not with fantasy, but with execution. Not once, but every single day. For the weak version of you will not go quietly. He will resist. He will argue. He will promise comfort if you keep him alive. But you must bury him with silence, with solitude, with sacred self-governance. You do not argue with weakness. You replace it. You rise above it. You out-discipline it. And what you will find on the other side is not just success, but peace. The peace of knowing that you no longer need the world to approve, applaud, or understand. For you have built something no one can steal, an inner world governed by clarity, character, and conviction. The war within is the only war that matters. Every external victory is merely a reflection of the invisible battles you've won in silence before dawn, before applause, before anyone else believed. The battlefield is your own mind, and the enemy is not out there. It is the soft voice inside that says, just this once, you've earned a break. It's not that serious. That voice is not your friend. It is not your protector. It is your prison guard. To kill the weak version of yourself is not metaphor. It is necessity. And the method is not dramatic. It is daily. You do not kill the weak self with a speech or a moment of motivation. You kill him with a knife of repetition through silent, unglamorous execution, not for a day, not for a week, but until there is nothing left of him but memory, and even that begins to fade in the light of who you've become. The next stage of mastery is calmness, not passive calmness, but commanding calmness, the kind of inner stillness that makes kings out of commoners and visionaries out of the reactive. You've been taught that power is noise, that the loudest man wins, that the aggressive man dominates. But the truth is the opposite. The calm man controls every room he enters because he is the only one not ruled by it. Calmness is the weapon of the inner elite. It is forged in silence and honed in solitude. The weak self panics. He rushes, he fidgets, he overreacts. His nervous system is his master. But the new self, the ruler, is still. He does not flinch when insulted. He does not scramble when challenged. He moves with quiet purpose, because he is governed not by the room, but by the mission. Understand this principle. Calmness is strength under pressure. When you're calm, you think clearly. When you think clearly, you act effectively. And when you act effectively, you rise while others collapse. Calmness is not inactivity, it is intentionality. The lion does not roar before the strike. He watches, he waits, he calculates, and when he moves, it is final. Train calmness the way you would train a sword. Remove the noise from your day. Breathe deeply. Speak slowly. Delay your reactions by 5 seconds long enough to break the trance of emotion. Think before you move, and when you move, make it decisive. If you learn to stay calm when others lose their heads, you will own the world they were too emotional to control. All defeat begins with a thought. All victory begins the same. The man who loses allows his first thought to become his guide. The man who wins questions it, refines it, reshapes it until it aligns with law. Do not trust your first thoughts. Trust the ones you forged in fire. Thought is the architect of destiny. If you allow every untrained thought to dictate your day, you are not living, you are drifting. But the man who places thought before action, principle before motion, purpose before emotion, that man builds a kingdom within himself that cannot be conquered from without. Before you act, ask, is this thought aligned with the version of me I'm becoming? Does it serve my empire or my excuses? The undisciplined mind is full of commentary. The disciplined mind is full of command. Now we descend into the furnace, the place where men either melt or become steel. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the ability to feel and yet not flinch, to suffer and still stay strategic, to be wounded and still remain dangerous. Most men are emotional slaves. They are happy only if praised, disciplined only if motivated, loyal only if loved. But the sovereign man, the one who has killed the weak self, does not require emotion to move. He requires law. He lives by internal structure, not external validation. Here is the cause and effect law. If you live by emotion, you live in reaction. But if you live by principle, you live in power. Detachment means you no longer need circumstances to obey your mood. You are not cheerful because life is easy. You are cheerful because your discipline is strong. You are not consistent because conditions are perfect. You are consistent because your character demands it. Detach from outcome, detach from opinion, detach from the need to be seen, attach only to your inner oath. Your results will come not because you chased them emotionally, but because you outlasted everyone else who did. The highest form of power is self-governance. You become judge, jury, and executor of your own life. You no longer consult with weakness before acting. You no longer negotiate with laziness. You no longer wait for approval. You rise and execute by decree. To govern the self is to live by laws that you write in silence and enforce with consistency. Your rituals are not trends, they are sacred. Your standards are not preferences, they are pillars. Your boundaries are not suggestions, they are borders. Every morning the weak self rises with you. He whispers comfort. He seduces with delay. But you outgovern him with routine. You dominate him with pattern. You suffocate him with the repetition of power. He cannot survive long under the relentless pressure of execution. So build your rituals, guard your morning, frame your thoughts, prime your mind with vision, move your body with intensity, feed your brain with truth, and then go to war. Not with others, but with the version of you that used to settle for less. There is no throne without sacrifice. The man who rises must kill something daily, and most days it will be his own comfort. You will not become who you are meant to be by seeking what feels good. You will become it by burning what feels easy. The weak version of you is addicted to comfort. He rationalizes, he waits, he avoids the hard things. But success is only found in the fire, the gym when you are tired, the silence when you want noise, the hard decision when the easy one tempts. You must get used to walking toward discomfort, not because you love pain, but because you love what it makes of you. If you want a life that others admire, you must build habits that others avoid. It is in those hidden hours, those small private acts of self-conquest that your empire is built. You do not rise because of what you know. You rise because of what you execute. Knowledge without action is a bookshelf with no builder. You may admire the shelves. You may quote their wisdom. But your life remains untouched. The new you, the true you, does not collect motivation. He converts it. He does not wait for certainty. He moves while others hesitate. Execution is not perfect, it is disciplined. You do not need to feel ready, you need to act aligned. Ask yourself daily, what am I building? What am I allowing? What am I avoiding? And what would the strongest version of me do right now? Then do it whether or not you feel like it. The weak version wants results. The strong version values repetition. Every decision you make either feeds the new you or funds the old. One of them is always dying. Choose who eats today. Let me now speak to the king within you, the one who has been silent, watching, waiting for the day you finally stop serving fear and start ruling with law. He is not soft, he does not bargain, he does not apologize for his standards. He is focused, he is disciplined, he is calm, he is dangerous in silence. And his throne is not built by chance, it is built by mastery over self. You were not born to obey the weak version. You were born to kill him and rise as the man no one believed you could become, not even you. From this moment on, act as if you are that man already. Speak with that fire. Move with that certainty. Choose with that clarity. Let the world adjust. There comes a sacred moment in a man's evolution when he must stop preparing and start executing, when he must step over the corpse of the version he used to be and walk into the kingdom of the man he was born to become. That moment is now, not after the next book, not after the next excuse, not after the next motivational swell. Now, because time is not your friend, it is your measure. And it has already begun to ask, what have you done with the breath I gave you? If you're still waiting for a sign, understand this: you are not ready because you haven't decided to be. The weak version of you is not a habit. He is a decision you keep making. And you must decide now to put an end to him, not with noise, not with drama, but with law. The throne of greatness has no seat for two. Either the weak version rules you or you rule him. But both cannot live. Kill him, or he will keep you comfortable while your potential rots behind you. Let me now give you the final laws, the royal laws that, if obeyed, will end the rule of weakness permanently and establish dominion over the inner kingdom. Before a man becomes wealthy in the world, he must become wealthy in identity. The man who seeks riches without character becomes a slave to money. The man who builds character first becomes the master of wealth, because his thinking cannot be corrupted by gain. Do not chase outcomes. Chase the version of yourself that creates outcomes. Stop asking, how do I get more money? Start asking, how do I become the man who commands it? Character before compensation, discipline before dividends, purpose before profit. The weak man asks for reward. The strong man becomes the kind of person who cannot be denied one. True power does not announce itself. It does not need to. The weak self brags, boasts, begs for validation. He is loud because he knows he is fragile. But the ruler, the disciplined inner monarch, is silent. His presence is a decree. His habits are his reputation. His energy precedes his introduction. Your rise must be private before it is public. Do not post what you have not yet proven. Let your improvement be so undeniable that those who knew the old you must introduce themselves again. Not out of arrogance, but because you've changed so thoroughly, so quietly, that they no longer recognize who you've become. Say nothing. Build everything. Success is not emotional, it is structural. The weak version of you is offended easily, discouraged quickly, addicted to how he feels. He needs the world to be smooth for him to stay consistent. But your new self must rise with standards so high that your feelings become irrelevant. You train because it's what rulers do, not because you feel like it. You read because knowledge is your weapon, not because you're in the mood. You say no to distractions, not because they're wrong, but because they are beneath your law. The man with high standards and low emotion is invincible. He is unmoved by noise. He is undeterred by failure. He doesn't chase feelings, he creates structure and lets emotion fall in line. The weak man says, I don't feel like it. The strong man says, I don't require myself to. There is a fire in every man. In the weak, it burns recklessly. It lashes out. It consumes him. But in the sovereign, it is caged, directed, transformed into force, precision, energy. The fire is still there, but now it serves. Your rage must not be suppressed. It must be repurposed. Let your anger at who you've been become energy for who you are becoming. Let your pain become pressure. Let your darkness become discipline. You are not a victim of emotion. You are the conductor of it. Fury is not the problem, unconscious fury is. Harness your inner fire and it will move mountains. Let it move you. The world lies to you about balance. The greats were not balanced, they were obsessed. Obsessed with mastery, obsessed with mission, obsessed with becoming what no one thought possible. And it is that obsession that killed their weaker selves and built the lives we admire. Your obsession must be sacred, focused, targeted, and daily. Let your purpose consume you. Let it dictate your choices. Let it be the reason you say no to everything that weakens you. Do not fear being misunderstood. Most of the world lives in distraction. They will not understand discipline. Let them stay confused. You stay focused. This is the final law, and it is the sword by which all the others are enforced. Daily execution, not intention, not reflection, not good ideas. Execution, every day, especially the days you don't want to, especially the days your emotions rise up to protest. Weakness dies under the weight of consistency. A man becomes great not by what he dreams, but by what he does, especially when no one is watching. Every day you have two choices: strengthen the king or feed the slave. One habit, one thought, one action, every day. And if you make that decision one more time than the weak self does, you win. He loses, and he begins to fade. That's how you kill him. Not with a sword, with a schedule. Let me now speak not to your fear, but to your fire. The world has already tried to humble you. You do not need more reminders of what you lack. What you need is to remember what is already inside of you and rise to meet it. You do not need more time. You do not need more opinions. You do not need another book, another course, another pep talk. You need only this: a private moment, a clean break, a silent decision to kill the version of yourself that's been delaying your destiny and to rise not tomorrow but today. No one is coming. The rescue you're waiting for is the ruler inside you, suffocating under the weight of your excuses. Let him rise. So stand within, straighten your spine, command your breath, and speak. This is the last day the weak version of me leads. This is the first day I execute as king. Then walk, and don't look back, not even to wave. Because the man you used to be, he doesn't deserve a funeral. Only your silence. Only your success.